All right, the Out of Bounds Show is presented by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Visit MississippiSportsMedicine.com if you have any kind of orthopedic hiccup. We want to welcome in our friend David Johnson, Rebels 247. 247 Sports. David joins us on the Modelo guest line. Football is finally here. That's a good thing. One thing that we know about Ole Miss, a couple of things we know. They had the best quarterback in the SEC returning. I think Corral is much better than JT Daniels. So they got that box checked. We also know that they're going to play Louisville first game of the year. And Ole Miss is better, but that's still a Power 5 team. Scott Satterfield's a heck of a coach. They'll play on Monday in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Georgia Dome. And it could be an interesting game. We'll see. I mean, if any team's going to blow the other one out, it's Ole Miss will blow them out. But maybe the thing bleeds into the second half. We'll see. We welcome in David Johnson on the Out of Bounds Show. David, we know about Matt Corral. He's going to have a fantastic year with Sanders and Drummond and Ely and many more around him. Let's talk depth at that position. Who's going to be the number 2 QB for Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's one that they have to still answer. What I would think you're going to see, particularly early in the season, is that knock on wood, if anything happens to Matt Corral, I think you turn to John Rice Plumlee still, even though he's not tailor-made like Corral is to run that offense. He's the guy with experience. He's the proven commodity. You know what he can bring. He brings some things to that position that maybe Matt Corral doesn't have in his speed and things of that nature. But, you look beyond Plumlee, you've got Kincaid Dent and Luke Altmaier. And, while, you could look at Dent in the spring and see progress, he has progressed at that position. Luke Altmaier's a true freshman. He did get here early, went through spring, but in action we saw with Altmaier, they limited him to basically 7-on-7 type stuff. We never saw him operate under the, duress of a pass rush, things like that. Physically, he still needs to mature a little bit. I think Luke Altmaier is a quarterback of the future at Ole Miss, but I don't know that he would be ready this fall, for, critical game action. So, again, I think that's where you turn to John Rice Plumlee. And John Rice told me just a couple of weeks ago that, he understands fall camp is going to be a little different for him this year, as they line him up, potentially some in the backfield, in the slot position. But he's going in with the mindset that, he's QB1. And that's what he has to do, to be ready to relieve Matt Corral if, the worst thing happens to Ole Miss. It could happen to Ole Miss and Corral gets injured or anything of that nature. So I think that's what you're going to see.
How will that practice? Okay, so JRP is expected to be a big piece of the puzzle at wide receiver slot. But like you said, let's just say Corral tweaks an ankle and has to miss a game, and you feel I'm with you. I think JRP is the best option. I think he could start for dozens of schools around the country and be awesome. How do you think that practice schedule will go? Like 90% at slot, wide receiver, and just enough at QB to keep up and running, or a little bit more as far as reps? How do you see that, David?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch unfold. I think he's got to get the reps at quarterback. There's no doubt that he will. Fortunately for Ole Miss, John Rice Plumlee is a highly intelligent football player. So, he's going to pick different things up very, very quickly. I think he's going to see some action in the slot from the get-go, but he can't turn loose of playing quarterback either, not right now. Not until these guys, Dent and Altmaier, develop a little bit more. The slot position is going to be interesting at Ole Miss because I think it's going to be a platoon-type situation. You're going to see John Rice Plumlee, getting some reps there. I think you're going to see Jerrion Ealy getting reps there at the slot. they're going to do what they can to keep that production similar to last year and what they got with Elijah Moore. So, a lot of moving pieces going into fall camp, and it will be fascinating to see how they choose to use those pieces.
David Johnson, Ole Miss Spirit, Rebels 247 on the Modelo guest line, 247 Sports. We're talking Ole Miss football. They open up with Louisville. And, of course, Matt Corral's the starter. We'll see what all they do with John Rice Plumlee this year. And as David mentioned, Ely's looking at – he already had a super year last year, but, a breakout year to kind of parlay that into an high pick in the NFL next spring. So who's the most talented wide receiver? Is it Sanders or is it someone else?
I think Braylon Sanders has the ability to be that go-to guy this year. Braylon's got to stay healthy for the first time in his career. That is a key thing to watch this year. I mean, the kid averaged more than 20 yards per catch last year in limited action. It looks like Corral and Sanders have a really good chemistry going. So if I had to pick a guy out of a pretty talented, room full of wide receivers, I think it would be Braylon Sanders. Now, but you look at Jonathan Mingo. He has got everything he needs to become a breakout player. You'd like to see a little bit more consistency with him. And I think as he enters this next year of his career, that maturity level is going to start showing up. So he's a guy to watch, as well as Dontario Drummond out there. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, no Elijah Moore on this offense, but there is talent in that wide receivers room.
Sure.
I mean, there aren't any big names just yet, but there are some very talented pass catchers on that roster.
Okay, so if they're going to line up Ely all over the place, that allows them to put Parrish or Snoop at the running back position even more, right? And get get Ely and another running back on the field at the same time, right?
Yeah, I think you're going to see Parrish play a much more significant role this year because, I talked to Jerry on last week, and he's anticipating getting a lot of reps in the slot. He told me that himself, so I think that opens the door for Parrish to become more involved. With Snoop, I think you're going to see kind of what you saw last year. Snoop is going to be that ball control kind of running back. He's the guy that can take it up between the tackles. Not saying he's not a threat on the edge, but he's more equipped to run the ball between the tackles. And I think you're going to see them try to use a fresh-legged Snoop Connor late in ball games to kind of be able to kind of slow that offense down a little bit and still get some positive yardage. So it's going to be, like I said, a lot of moving parts to this offense, but it's going to be really fun to see how they move the chess pieces around.
I've got 30 seconds. Who's a new name that could emerge on? I mean, it's tough between Sanders, Ely, Drummond, Parrish, and others. Is there a new name that could work their way in and we could be talking about 6-7 games into the season?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a Jackson area kid at you, Brandon Buckhalter. I think, Buckhalter has had a great spring. He was injured a little bit, a few nagging injuries that reduced his action that we saw. But, man, I saw the kid Saturday morning out at the Manning Center. Looks great. They're really high on him. Keep an eye on Brandon Buckhalter.
All right, David Johnson. We'll start doing this on a regular basis. We'll get into DJ Durkin in the defense in the next week or so. David Johnson, Ole Miss Spirit, Rebels 247. Thanks so much, David. We'll talk soon.
All right, Bo. Thanks for having me.
David joins us on the Modelo guest line. It is a Taco Tuesday, and it is always brought to you by Modelo Cerveza. Delicious beer, the Especial. And Blake's eyeing one right now, so I may let him have one late this afternoon. Please drink responsibly. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. Favorites.com.